Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all over the world. Dobson 777A here. I don't know what happened to YouTube, but for some reason I have to do a pop out chat. It doesn't show up for some reason. I don't understand. Something changed. I'll have to see what they did, but it's really aggravating when they do something like this. I ran into that last week. I thought there was something wrong with the way I started it, but I didn't. It did it again this week. So I don't know if it's a Chrome problem or what, but this is it's very disconcerting when you're trying to get something done, get out there. Hey, Mr. Action, man, have I got a lot of news to go through. I was going through, some of the normal things that I follow, and I also wanted to talk about this vaccine stuff because, man, I see all these people so proud that they went and got their vaccine, and yet there's been virtually no testing on this. But I got to thinking, especially with the mRNA approach that they're taking, and the Gates and everybody's been involved. And you got to remember, Gates came up with, Microsoft, the disk operating system that initially came out, and then the Windows operating system and all that. And I got a feeling that his thought process is that he can go ahead and modify your DNA, and it'll be like an operating system, and then you can upgrade it periodically. And that's the approach that I think they're doing. Excuse me. And there isn't a positive history with this mRNA approach. Man, I wish I'd have brought my water with me. But anyways, I sit here and I'm wondering, the folks that are getting this right now, should we call them humans anymore? They're now got a different operating system that's starting here, and I'm sitting here wondering how bad this is going to be down the road. And we already know that the virus created problems to begin with long-term issues, and now you're doing this vaccine that is having. I don't know if you heard about the vaccine arm or whatever they're having, where people, it's like a week or two later, they end up with this big bulge on their arm. Don't know long term what's going to happen here, but I sit here and I wonder, have you thought about the fact that the guy that created, or he actually didn't create it, he actually bought it from somebody and then sold it to IBM, but the disk operating system and then ultimately Windows that put this whole thing together, he's been pushing this stuff, and I'm afraid that they're actually going to try to play God and determine what our genes are really supposed to be doing, our DNA. And I don't know if you've thought about that or not, but it sure seems like we're going down a path of no return. Once you monkey with this, you now have created another potential species. I saw that one of the airlines, I won't name them because I'm doing it off the top of my head, but they're forcing all their employees to have this vaccine. We know that the flu shot and everything, that a lot of hospitals were forcing all the workers to do it. So I don't know if the COVID shots become mandatory there or not, but it's very disconcerting to me. And I just wanted to start the show with that because I actually commented on a couple really well done videos where they were discussing how much cell damage is occurring from this so-called vaccine, which, by the way, it's not a vaccine, but and I thought it was a very interesting discussion. I don't know how many of you saw that video, but that was a really nice discussion by a couple of folks. We're going to learn eventually, but there's this law of unintended consequences that I always looked at when I was as an engineer. You were trying to fix problems. We had problems and we were trying to fix them, but the whole idea was try not to introduce any more problems, especially anything worse than what you already had. That'd be horrible if you did that. Occasionally it would happen, but you'd quickly adjust. But most of the time we would study things very carefully before we implemented something. This has not had any study. And for the fact that such a small percentage of people, the weakest of us, are the ones the most susceptible to this, for the fact that people are vaccinating their children and everything, it's incredible to me that they would do that. This is just like a low IQ population we're dealing with here. And they're trying to create a second class of people an underclass for the people that don't get vaccinated in some of the states. So the whole thing's just bizarre to me. When yet we have an immune system, folks. We have an immune system. That's what it's there for, to fight this stuff off. So 99.999 something percent of people that get this thing, it's going to be just like in many cases, just a small flu. Others might fight it off for a week or two. But by the way, the flu does that too. I've known people been knocked on their butt by the flu itself. So for people to think that they've got to go off and do this, it's strange to me. So that was a 5-minute rant on that one. Let's see. I'm going to name off some names here. So we talked about Mr. Action. He threw the first like. Wow, we got 5 now. Willie Will from Michigan. He's not going to be a guinea pig. Linda Compton. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Hello from Spokane, Washington, 83 degrees. If you're in the military, their daughter, you won't have a choice. Yeah, that's kind of sucky. I don't know if I told you the story. My son was on a carrier. They were doing some qualifications and stuff, and they're up on the flight deck, 30-mile-an-hour winds, and they were all required to wear masks. And he thought, what idiocy. You know, first off, it's not, you're out in the middle of the freaking ocean. You only have a handful of people on the flight deck. It's already the most dangerous job probably there is in the world. And you're out there wearing face diapers. It makes no sense at all. So Linda had 7 children, did not vaccinate any of them. Ring that bell. I'm a hard no for the vax, but I told everyone it worked. Yep, I changed my mind, got vax last out loud. Lost the paperwork that went into the deep with this gold, silver, and bang bangs. Exactly. All right, so let's see. There was a couple other news articles I wanted to hit. Did you see that the IRS is launching a crackdown to ensure crypto investors pay their taxes? This was an article yesterday on Zero Hedge, and it was actually very detailed. It was kind of interesting because they were talking about how cryptos are treated with tax purposes. And it was really even more interesting, the fact that if you went and bought something, let's say Tesla was allowing people to go buy for a short time some of their vehicles with crypto. And they were talking about how that would be handled from a tax perspective. And I just thought it was really, really strange. And that, you know, if you bought them, it's kind of like you got to treat it a little bit like a stock. So you might have to do some tax loss selling and everything to offset any gains you have. There's some things with offshore holdings. They have to file some FinCEN Form 114 and FBAR and all kinds of stuff. But it was, it's very interesting, very interesting. So that people are going to get caught up this. They don't realize that the IRS has the keys on a lot of these now, and they're going to be able to track you down no matter what. So don't try to get around this. This is going to be a problem. Another thing that I saw, and it kind of goes in line with, again, you know, how do you value something? You know, we see these ridiculous valuations on some of these cryptos. And again, you know, how do you value something? This is another Zero Hedge thing, but they were talking about, there's this stock, it's called Hometown International, and it only owns a single deli in rural New Jersey. The deli had $21,772 in sales in 2019 and only $13,976 in 2020 sales. It was closed, you know, due to COVID from March to September. Yet this stock, HWIN, reached a market cap of 113 million on February 8th. Well, this is just absolutely asinine. What the heck are people thinking when they go off and bid this thing up? The largest shareholder is a wrestling coach of the high school next door to the deli. Now, it turns out that this same guy had set up I might be getting this wrong, but it was something about a shell company called E-Waste, where they were going to try to, separate stuff of value and not just put it in landfills. But this other shell company had assets of 183,000 and liabilities of 412,000. It posted a net loss of 58,000 for 9 months ended November 30th. Yet this company also has been valued at $100 million. What in the world are people doing? These idiots, they're off buying these things. And this thing's got more than 2 times the debt compared to its assets. And, it's running a serious loss, and it doesn't actually even have a business right now because it wasn't successful. So he's actually taking money being the CEO of the deli and moving it over to this one to try to get it jump started again. But it's like, who's investing in this stuff? Anybody have a clue what's going on? Let me read some of the comments here. Josh Matthews. Willie Will says they never figured out the flu pandemic. Folks were fooled. Parabuilding says, what's up, Thompson? Elevator mechanic, I'll buy a fake vaccine card. No way myself or kids are getting it. Yeah, I'm thinking that's actually a good business. Go figure out what these certificates are, and let's just start printing these stupid things up, because that's man, I bet you that thing will have a good business case. Now, how many of you saw that home prices are soaring so fast they are negating the benefits of the low mortgage rates? I will try to remember at the end of this, I'm usually so tired at the end of this because I start these so late anyways. I need to put a link to these videos that I did probably 2 years ago. And I said, guys, we are going to have real estate is going to do as well or probably even better than gold and silver. And people are like, you're crazy. But yet, look at what is happening. Because they're printing this money, it's another tangible asset, and it's going to go through exactly the same type approach. And because we had this crash back all the way from 2006 to 2012, we had all these short sales and foreclosures continued all the way through 2016. That whole industry was decimated. They didn't build anything. They're now trying to ramp up that whole industry, and they're millions of homes behind. It's going to take forever. And, even though they're millions of homes behind, more people are born and more people are coming in this country. They got to build even more. So this is going to be a long-term problem. And because of the lumber prices, everything, it's pricing a lot of people out of this, and that's making the existing homes even more valuable. So keep in mind, as they're trashing our currency, tangible assets are going to do real well. And it's supply and demand, folks. There are not enough houses. Got to get proper grammar. And the fact is, that's the same problem with the precious metals. People are going to be moving out of these cryptos, which that's what I'm going to segue into next. I don't know if you've seen all the stuff going on with Elon talking about cryptos. He was in love, several months ago with Bitcoin, and he bought a bunch of it for his company. Now he's been trashing it, and he started talking about Dogecoin, and now, there's a big hoorah going throughout all of that. But in the meantime, there's another article that came out that talked about, commodities, cryptos, and crappy stocks crumble as stagflation soars this week. So, we've been talking about, are we going to have inflation, deflation, and I've been kind of talking about the stagflation scenario. And so we have, as of 2021 so far, we're seeing inflation going up significantly, but we're seeing industrial output kind of crashing down. And there are several reasons for this, right? We had a problem with the canal down there blocking everything. We have a problem with lumber shortages, can't get things built up. We have chip shortages. How many people have heard about these car manufacturers? They're stacking up cars everywhere because they don't have the chips to finish them out. So you can't sell anything. The stuff is just stacking up in different places. Then, we had this problem during the wintertime where Texas was basically taken offline. And then we had now the pipeline taking off like the whole Southeast because of the, what do they call it, ransomware attack. And there was this really cool article. I'm going to go back to the comments here. I've got this other thing up right now. So we've got, how many of you feel like that I've been talking about this again for a couple years, that you're going to feel like you're a frog being boiled. It's, they're going to just turn the water up a little bit at a time. You're not going to know you're being boiled, but can you not see that how weak our various systems are, and why I've been begging you to try to duplicate as many of your, energy, your water, any of the utilities that you have, like I have septic, so I'm not relying on a city with pumps and chemicals and everything to do it. I have kind of a natural thing. So I want you to understand that there's a reason why I've been doing it, and it's the systems are so susceptible to just about anything. And I'm telling you, if we lose power, I mean, we lost energy. You couldn't drive anywhere. I mean, we're still there's problems. Thousands of gas stations in this area are completely out of fuel. Now they do have, diesel, but it's just because there's not as many diesel vehicles on the road in the U.S. as there had been in the past. So right now, I just feel like they're really setting us up for a major disaster, especially with the amateurs in office right now. I don't know how many of you heard they actually paid the ransom. The pipeline company paid the ransom early on. They made it sound like they didn't, but they did. But still, it ended up being a disaster anyways. Can you imagine if we lost power for months? I mean, it's one thing to not be able to drive your car around, but you still have electricity doing all your refrigerators, freezers, all that kind of stuff. But can you imagine if something happened, like an EMP or a CME from the sun? It's going to be lights out, folks. When I see whole states like Texas being taken out, and then all of a sudden you see the Southeast being taken out, folks, they're preparing you for something. You're being prepared. I hope you see that. You're being prepared. You're being conditioned. This pandemic, they were conditioning you. You have to understand, they're trying to tell you to be prepared. They've been trying to get these electric cars out there. They're telling you to get to electric because I think they're trying to tell you the end is near for the fuel. But in fact, that was one of the things the doggone Obama admin said. Well, the people with electric cars aren't affected. Yeah, but how many people can go out and just change out their cars and spend $40,000, $50,000 for these dang electric vehicles? So anyways, don't be surprised if you start seeing other pipelines, if you start seeing, I mean, we went from one state problem to like 11 states, I think, were affected by this. So is the next thing going to be lights out across the country? I don't know. I don't know if you had a chance to look, but I did put up on my channel, the community tab. I took some pictures of radishes I pulled out that were just absolutely gorgeous. And I was kind of digging around for some recipes, and I actually decided to pickle them. I took 2 quart jars and I cut them all up and put them in there. And then I had the tops of the radishes, the greens, and I looked at several recipes and I decided to do a pesto. I don't know if you know what that is, but you basically strip the leaves off and then you grind it up in one of these food processors, and then you mix in some Parmesan cheese, a little bit of lemon, a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and garlic, ground up garlic. And I'm going to tell you what, that came out. Pestos are something like you can go to these fine restaurants. You'll dip your bread in a little bit of olive oil and you put that pesto on there. I actually do it with chips because I can't eat bread anyways. But I'm telling you what, that came out really good. Oh, yeah. Ring That Bell says Pentagon did a study and said power out. They said 90% gone if it lasted 1 year. And there's a reason for that. It's because people don't have gardens. People don't have any ability. They're all dependent in cities on, and that's a large percentage of our population in the U.S. They're all dependent on water from the cities that require pumps and everything else. Most people don't have rain catchment or anything else. They don't have any, chickens or anything else like that. So yeah, it's a major problem. And think about all the people that are tied to, like insulin and all kinds of recurring drug medications and everything else. I mean, it's going to be a problem. It'll be a major problem. Got a Metro with 55 miles a gallon. If I remember correctly, Metros only have one-wheel drive, so you got to be careful you don't get that wheel stuck in the air. You're not going anywhere. And Linda has been listening for a while, so she knows what's going on. Yeah, controlled demolition, para-building too. Yeah, the Kentucky Motor Speedway. Yeah, I read about all that. I think that was the one where Ford is stocking up vehicles. Linda's been buying silver for a long time, and she bought a house and acreage, made it a triple, and rented out her original house. Lived in it for years, all paid cash. Blow off top, plain and simple. Hit the thumbs up. I say I got to bring up the other thing now. I've been on these other channels or other, I can actually see myself. Yeah, so I had so many greens. I ended up giving half the greens to the chickens. They just tear that stuff up. They absolutely love the greens. When I change over the garden, I give everything to the chickens. They love it. Yeah, I don't know if you get a chance, go to the community tab, look at the pictures. Even my onions are doing fantastic. The strawberries, I got to get out and give everything another dose of fertilizer. Everything's looking great. And I went through 20 minutes already. Let me go through this rest of this thing. So all the money-losing tech companies are crashing down. All the commodities had a pretty good dump. Crypto was overall lower, but I think I saw something where Ethereum was coming up while Bitcoin was going down significantly. Tesla was down for the 4th straight week. VIX is down. I haven't done my chart on the 20-year treasuries or 30-year treasuries to see how that thing's going versus gold. Gold has been doing fantastic. We're above 18. Let me switch over to that real quick. Oh, wow. Just while I'm talking, gold has jumped up to 1851. So we've jumped up another $7 or $8. I think we closed at 1843 on Friday, and silver is now above 27.5. It's almost 27.6 right now. So somebody's watching my channel and say, well, we need to go buy some gold and silver. I don't know. Is that what it is? It is funny sometimes when I do my charts, I say, hey, it looks like we're about ready to do something. And then it's like the next day it happens. I don't know how many times that's happened to me. I've had a few times where it's gone the other way, but it seems like a lot of times it's going. Lumber is actually must have finally peaked. It's starting to head back down. Iron ore is going down. That's kind of all of that. Mr. Action, his garden is huge this year. Yeah, I've had, I got my pole beans are in the ground, my cucumbers are in the ground. And I do want to remind you that I do have a greenhouse, and I have started a lot of these things in the greenhouse, like my tomatoes and peppers. So I do a lot of stuff from seeds. I buy very little. In fact, all my lettuce and everything that I sent the pictures, that was all from seed. I start them in the greenhouse and then put them in the ground. My garlic is actually looking really good, and my radishes were planted between the garlic rows, and they just came out fantastic. So everything's doing as well this year as last. Today I had to go down to my lower part of the field where the chickens are, and the grass was like 3 feet tall. So I was down there mowing on a slope, and it was a pain in the butt. It was hot as anything because I had to wear long jeans because I didn't know what was out there in my big, tall boots. And I'm slipping and sliding on this stuff because it's just making like this slimy mess where I was chopping it up and kept clogging up the lawnmower. So I had to keep stopping the lawnmower, clean the chute. So that was frustrating. And then I got my rototiller out and I rototilled that lower area because it had grown back in with a bunch of grass because I'm ready to plant now. May is the month that I start planting all my squash. So I have like butternut, spaghetti squash, and I forget what the other stuff's called, Waltham or something. I plant corn down there, probably some sunflowers, that kind of stuff. So I'm ready to start planting that stuff tomorrow. My big water tank, I noticed that I've got a screen catch in there. It's plugged up because it's overflowing from the top now instead of down the drain pipe. So I got to get a ladder, lean it up against there, pull the basket out, clean that all out, and then I need to start using the water from the tank and draining that out and getting fresh water in there. So, all of my sweet potatoes are in the ground. All my red potatoes are growing fantastically. A lot of the fruit trees, it's time to fertilize again because I did that in March. So anyways, things are coming along fantastically. So what are you guys doing? We'll have to see what happens. Anybody making any big purchase decisions? I don't know if we're going to end up peaking out and everything crashing down. I think they're trying to do this reset, but it looks like we have some of the conservative states are fighting through all this. I don't know if you saw the CDC. They're like, hey, in 6 weeks, this thing's going to be all over. We're just going to be done. Magically, just going to stop everything and just say, okay, let's all get back to work. A lot of the salons up here now, you don't have to wear a mask. I'm seeing people half and half in the grocery stores not wearing masks anymore. It looks like it's everybody's kind of going back to normal. You don't know what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do anymore. Up here, a lot of people, even Home Depot, just weren't even wearing masks. They just weren't doing it. This is a more rural area. People just don't believe it. Ring that bell is paying off the last year debt. I think that's really smart. I think that's super smart. I've always believed you should be debt free. Yeah, you ought to call. Trying to think what his name is. He has people call in whenever they get debt free. He's happy to hear that. I would pay off debt more than I ever would in doing any significant investing. You want to be debt free first. I was watching some videos about, people fall behind in their real estate taxes, and the city will come and take the home. They will sell the home for almost like, more than what the debt was, substantially more than the debt was, and then they keep the difference. Yeah, Dave Ramsey, thank you. Well, right now, this is being looked at closely by a lot of states and saying, no, you can't do that. They should be giving the people that lost their home the excess money. The cities and states are not supposed to be confiscating the wealth of the people, and this has been going on for a long time. In fact, I saw something the other day where there's these street racers, and they were talking about the city wanted to confiscate those cars and sell them for whatever they're worth. And everybody's like, well, what the heck are you talking about? You can't take people's property. I mean, this is bizarre thinking that we have in this country that they can just go off and take and steal the money. Yeah, Ramsey doesn't understand currency insurance. He will, though. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in real estate, you're protected. As I've said many times, people don't want to believe it, but it's held up perfectly since like the 60s. Um, just don't over leverage. He doesn't understand too that you're only take, and like a lot of silver bugs and gold bugs, they don't understand that it's only supposed to be insurance. You're supposed to have 10-20% max invested in this stuff. "30 minutes and we got 30 people watching and 14 thumbs up." Sunday night, I know a lot of you got to get up in the morning, go to work. Me, myself, and I probably be sleeping in, and then I'll get out there and go plant my corn and I got to make these mounds. Last year I showed you I did these mounds, and I was doing the Three Sisters thing, but I pretty much just stuck with the squash on the lower level with some sunflowers and corn. I'm gonna try to pay attention this year and get the corn to come out better than it did last year. I started way too early. Everything's warmed up now. It should be working perfect. We did have a couple cool nights in the 40s, but that's not enough to screw up anything. I was out on Lake Lanier the other day and the water was in the 50s still. That's pretty cool. I don't know how long you'd last if you fell in the water, like your boat sank or something. That's pretty cool. Well, let me go back and look and see what's going on with the metals. We hit refresh. We're at 1852 and silver is now 2762. That's a nice little jump. Like I said, we were at 1843 on Friday for gold, so that's up $10. And then silver was 2741, so that's up another 20 cents. That's a good amount. That should make you guys a little happy. We're starting to move out. Five circles of corn. Oh, that's nice. I did. I'm trying to remember what corn I got. I think I got a couple different. I went to one of these. I forget what you call it, but they have all these seeds lined up on a shelf, and you have to buy like a cup of corn or something. And so it's like, good God, that's way more than I can use. But I've got a friend that has a lot of acreage, so I'll end up giving him some. But in any event, I said, hey, why don't you mix this up? Take like a quarter cup of 4 different ones, and we'll see what happens. So that's what I'm doing. I can't even tell you which ones I got because it's all in one Ziploc bag, so it'll be a surprise. I mean, there's stuff like Silver Queen and whatever. I remember that name, but I'm not a big corn expert. So I just fool around with the corn. I got a few ears of corn last year that I ate. It was pretty good. Now remember, I don't throw any stuff on the thing. So if bugs get in there, they get in them. But that's just the way it works. Oh my God, the chickens love all this squash. I had so much squash. I just cut it up and cut it in half and lay it out there, and they'll eat the thing out. They just love it. Chickens love it. Chickens, man, they're garbage disposals. I love when I turn over my garden. I give them a lot of everything, especially anything leafy. They destroy it. Yeah, I'm gonna have some zucchini, uh, yellow squash. I've got that on the north side of my house. That stuff's growing like crazy right now. I forgot I got to plant some watermelons and stuff. Yeah, the problem is Nostradamus was so long ago. I don't know. I don't know how he could actually predict anything that far in the future, but yeah, solar storms. Supposedly, when you go into grand solar minimum, we have more solar storms than normal. So who knows? God, I mean, I tried. I've talked. I used to have these talks where I just sit on the front porch and kind of talk about things, and I kept saying, you know, you really need to try to figure out if something was to happen that you could live like back in the 1800s. That's really what you need to think about. It's like, okay, you go back before we had electricity. Do you know how to can, for instance? Because that's you're not going to have potentially refrigeration. So will you know how to take the stuff from your garden and preserve it? Will you learn how to? I forget what it's called. So um, there's another preservation where you ferment. I mean, how many people know how to ferment anything? That's something I need to practice. I've never had a taste for it. Like, what's that stuff that you put on hot dogs? Oh, I can't think of the name of it right now. It's like brown, stringy stuff. That's like a fermented type thing, and I just never got a taste for it. I mean, I can eat just about anything, but it doesn't mean that's something that I'd go chasing for. But if that's all they had, I'd probably figure it out. But fermentation is something that I think that's why most of our stomachs are all screwed up because we used to do that years ago, and it would help you for digestion and everything. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oh, sauerkraut. How many people eat sauerkraut? It's another way to kind of store cabbage and stuff and preserve it. Raccoons and squirrels tear yours up, so you're going to put a string around the stalk. Oh, the stalks of corn. Okay. I have a fence that kind of circles my whole garden area and where my chickens are, and there's a fence within a fence, and so um, I I haven't had much problems. But since I don't do large scale, I don't get like a major attack either. What is today? 16th. Oh, I thought the tax day was on the 15th, but maybe it's the 17th. I already asked for an extension. Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, the government has been spending way more than what's been coming in. Is because they delayed tax day again. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to have a monster bill this year. I got to focus on that over the next couple of weeks. Got to stop talking about it and just get it done. I didn't shave today. I guess because I got up and just went outside and started working. I watered a lot of the garden today, get it going. That's one of the reasons why I picked my radishes. They were so big they split from when I watered. I should have taken them out before I watered. I've done stuff like that before. That's another trick, folks. When you have a bunch of tomatoes, excuse me, tomatoes are very prone to split from watering. So whenever I know a big rain is coming, especially, I get out there and pick the crap out of all my tomatoes so you don't end up splitting them. And even if they're just slightly green, they'll ripen on the table in here. So uh, I'll try to remember all these things while I'm out there working in the garden this year, and help you with things that I've learned over the years. Even if you can't have a big garden, it's still good for you to do this stuff to keep in practice because there may be a day that's all you got to eat. And so you got to learn how to do this because I'm telling you, gardening is hard. I've made it easy because I've been doing it over and over and over. Just like taking care of chickens and other animals, you got to do it over and over and over so you can remember things. I got to tell you a story of my chicks. I can't remember if I talked about this last week or not. I think I did. Um, I ordered these from Tractor Supply, 30 chicks, and there's only 13 survived out of the first 30, and it's because they were delayed in shipping. And it was something to do with the post office. I don't know what's going on with the post office, but I'll tell you the next story. So they shipped me another 15 that were supposed to be here on Friday. They didn't get here till Saturday, just before they closed. They called me and I ran up there. It's about half an hour away. Got there before they closed, got my chicks, and there was a bunch of dead chicks in there already. I only got 3 that survived so far out of 15. So now out of 45 chicks, I've only got 19. That's ridiculous. And it's because there's something going on with the post office. Now, I talked to the lady when I was picking her up, and I said, look, I can look in here and see a lot of these are dead. She says, look, I got packs and packs and packs of these over here for Tractor Supply, where they're delivering the chicks, where they sell the chicks at Tractor Supply. And they said they're all dead in there. And I said, well, what's going on? So we don't know. We've been screaming and hollering at the bosses trying to figure out what's going on, because they don't like it that they're sitting here, got all these dead chicks, because they've been doing this for years. And normally this stuff's delivered in a couple days, and instead it's taking like 4 days. So something is wrong. Something is terribly wrong. I'm beginning to think that this is just me. But what if they're intentionally don't want people to be able to have chicks and chickens and everything? Yeah, sabotaging the prepared. I was just going down that path, and I've been talking to people. I said I've never seen it this bad that they're actually doing this. So I'm actually now trying to find local people here that maybe have their own hatchery that I can pick up directly instead of shipping across the country. And oh man, eBay put a block on his account. 100% feedback, no returns. They said it was to verify your info. Yeah, that's ridiculous. So I don't know what's going on, but I've never seen it this bad. I need like 30 chicks grown up to get probably like 28 or so to survive all the way to processing, so that I can fill my freezer. So all this means is that, and now it's ridiculous because I've got Franken chickens that are a week old. They're so huge compared to these new chicks that are like tiny, because these things grow like crazy. It's like a pound a week. That's how fast these things grow. And I've taken some pictures. I got to post them so that you can see the difference, because you won't believe the size difference just in a week. So I'm hoping that we'll figure out what's going on. I'm probably just going to ask my money back for the 15 that they can't seem to get here, and it's the post office fault. It's not the hatchery. It's frustrating. Oh wow, I can't believe that they're putting a block on you because you're gold and silver. Yeah, garden herbs are very easy. I actually have some spearmint and something else that's like spearmint. And I've also got, what are the long, it looks like pine needles. Is that dill or something? I've got some of that out there, and I forget about it, but those should be using that in my cooking as well. But you can make tea out of the spearmint stuff. It's really smells good when you just go pick some off. All right, let's take a look again to see what's happening to the metals. We're getting okay, it's kind of stopping here. So we were at 18, almost 51 for gold, and then it's silver's coming back down 27.59. So that beep in the background, I did the dishwasher earlier, so it's telling me it's done. So I don't know. I'll have to look around. I heard some story about one of the main companies that grow chickens for eggs, and they've had a problem. Apparently, they changed out with some roosters to another type or something, and it was a failure. And so now they're actually having to change back, and it's going to take a long time. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it's like the homework's not working, or things, the tests didn't. Sometimes things are done in very controlled environment, and then you try to bring it into a larger scale, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, I've got a broody hen, and I've got an incubator, and so this is about the time of year that I start doing my incubation. But one of the problems I'm having is my egg production has gone way down, and I had a chicken just up and die on me. These are getting old. I'm late. I should have replaced them last year, but these chickens are getting old, and the hens especially. You can go roosters quite a few years, but I usually try to replace them every 2 years. So I got to get some hatching going and get some new Rhode Island Reds. Why is platinum cheaper than gold when platinum members are higher than gold membership in general? So platinum is kind of like silver in the sense that you have platinum and palladium that kind of change places in industry, and platinum is one of those things that when it gets out of line in price, they switch over to palladium. When palladium gets out of line, they switch back to platinum. And it takes years as this change occurs before, like palladium we saw last year went out of whack. And so platinum becomes more favorable. And then eventually that'll get out of whack and it'll switch back the other way. But I talked about last year the fact that they've come up with a tri-metal catalyst for automobiles, as well as other things. And so what they're trying to do is to not just switch from one to the other. They're going to try to use a little bit of each so that we don't get things out of whack. So you might see things, you might see palladium come down and platinum go up, and then they might like level off. I don't know how much they use of each. They wouldn't tell this tri-metal catalyst what percentage of each they use, but Patriot Man's in the house. So, yeah, Bitcoin is definitely, there's something going on where I talked about at the beginning of this that Elon Musk is kind of poo-pooing Bitcoin. And then he kind of got in the middle with Dogecoin. Something's going on, but there's a whole lot of exchange. If you go to Zero Hedge, they're talking about it. I don't spend a lot of time on Bitcoin because it's not a tangible asset. None of these are tangible assets. You got to look at them as pretty speculative, and it's mainly, I'd say it's a counting tool. That's what you ought to be looking at it, not necessarily for currency. I don't know why U.S. Post Office would be spying on social media, but remember they were weaponized during the election because they were shipping ballots across different state lines and stuff, and so they can't be trusted. Copper is actually kind of that's one of the commodities that's crashing right now, and I think it's just because you can build a whole car, but if you don't have the chips, you can't sell it. Sometimes what's going to happen with this crypto, and I think it's happening in some of these countries, there's all of a sudden the country's going to say, you're not going to be allowed to trade crypto in this country, and you got 30 days to convert to whatever it is going to be. Fed coin is going to be, what was the Yuan digital coin? There was something over there. All these, there was Britcoin. They're going to say you need to be able to, convert into whatever the government's preference is. So you're going to have 30 days to do that. So, everybody's worried about them coming after gold and silver and everything else, but yet similar things going to happen. They're just going to say it's outlawed and you got to convert. So I've been saying that since the beginning of time. The government doesn't like competition. They're just going to say it's illegal, and they're going to track you down and try to get it. There's been lately a bunch of theft locally here of catalytic converters. And by the way, it's expensive as hell when you go cut a catalytic converter off. They do a lot of damage because you got to replace like the whole muffler system, because they don't just like unscrew the thing and get it out of there. They actually cut it out with a I forget what the saw is. There's a power saw. They got battery operated power saws to cut the pipes. Well, look, I wanted to get on here. It's been almost an hour, so we've had a good time. I appreciate everybody joining in. We'll have to watch to see what happens. I'll take a quick look at the prices again. Gold's coming back down. We're at 1851. It must have spiked up a little bit to 1852 for a second. Silver's back to 2759, but that's really good stuff there. So anyways, it looks like we're going to possibly have another good week breakout. We'll see how things go. SB, it's good to see you. Everybody else, it was thanks for stopping by, and we'll keep an eye out on things and get back with you later in the week, or maybe middle of the week. Hope everybody's treating you well. I hope you're doing well. Do the best you can. God bless.